So Ohtani, the season opened up yesterday. And Ohtani, out of the news came the story that involved Shohei Ohtani, but it wasn't necessarily, Zach, supposed to be around Ohtani. It's around his translator, if you want to dive in a little bit more on what that means.
Yeah, so pretty much the story broke yesterday that Shohei Ohtani, at some point, his account transferred $4.5 million into some sort of bookie, gambling, I would say illegal gambling site. And the story at the moment is that Ipe, who is his translator, longtime best friend, they spend literally every day together, is that he had a massive gambling issue, lost $4.5 million, and Shohei Ohtani was covering up for him and just taking care of the debts. However, later it is announced that Shohei's team and lawyers are filing it as a massive theft, saying that Ipe actually stole this money from Shohei Ohtani and that Ohtani had no knowledge of the money missing or the gambling that was occurring from it. So it's kind of that story that has swept the baseball world over the past 24 hours because the biggest star in the world, Shohei Ohtani, the face of baseball, suddenly a gambling scandal. And that's why it's been so big, because I don't think people with the information out right now know how to take it. So it's going so many different ways. Is Ohtani a degenerate gambler? Does he have a gambling problem? Is he being robbed? And no one knows the truth right now.
Yeah, I think the bigger part is what it seems like we're not getting the full story. And I'm not buying initially the fact, and you've seen some videos that popped up. Apparently, the report that his translator addressed the team hours after, but you see right before the game ended, that would have been the press conference or addressing the team would have been directly after the game. And it didn't seem like there's any problem between the two there. It didn't seem like they were buddy-buddy. And it just feels like Ohtani was aware of the situation. It feels like whether or not he was involved, he knew what happened.
Yeah,
and it's such a weird situation right now, Brad.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I feel like we obviously don't have all the facts, so people are just assuming things that have happened. But I also feel like, and Zach, you and I talked about this off camera a little bit, that this feels like, and I don't want to start pointing fingers just yet, but it feels like some sort of cover up. Somebody's not saying something, and somebody has done something really wrong. And then maybe it's Ipe taking the fall for all this, but like, he can't be the only one whose hands are dirty in this entire situation. So I'm really curious to see what this all looks like by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah, well, and it's the poster boy. And here's the video right there. For those that are watching this, Ohtani is hanging out. There they are. They're buddy. They're laughing.
Shooting the shit. Just, what you do with your boys. And
right.
I will say, I've never been in the situation where I've had a close friend take $4.5 million from me. But I don't think that's how I would be reacting with them if supposedly within the past few hours I had found out that he stole all that money from me. So that's where it makes it a little weird.
Right.
Yeah, Nick, I mean, how would you feel if someone allegedly stole $4.5 million from you?
I'd be pretty upset if somebody stole it from me. I don't know if that came before. I read the thing talking about it was like Shohei kind of did it for him so he could help because he didn't trust him with the money. Yeah. A gambling addiction, gambling addicts, it's a very interesting thing. It's very fine. There's a very fine line. So, I mean, it's really hard to say at this point with the information that we've been given, but for the sake of baseball, I hope he wasn't Pete Rose in us,
I love my favorite thing to come out of this was someone found his stat line versus the Athletics last year, and he gave up like 5 runs in like 3 innings. Someone's like, I need this investigated right now. Like, this is not how this goes down.
I feel like we are very far away from the conclusion of this whole thing. I think there's going to be a lot more that comes out. I think this is just like the tip of the iceberg in terms of what information we're about to get with this whole thing.
That 30 for 30, man.
I'm telling you, they are getting that 30 for 30 going. And if there's one thing that the MLB, the one player that nothing could be around or so no controversy,
you would never think it.
But also he is he's everything to baseball.
Mm-hmm.
He just got $700 million. He broke the bank. He changed the structure there. He's the international superstar. He's the modern day Babe Ruth on steroids, all this shit. And all of a sudden the MLB is like, oh, well, Shohei's innocent. It's okay. He's not being investigated, but the perception, this is not the last we're going to hear about this.
I agree with Jason real quick. The MLB has to address this in more than just saying we're not investigating Shohei, because it's allowing so many people to run with the story in so many different ways. And all they keep saying is, yeah, no, it was Shohei's not part of the investigation. And they haven't really stated why or findings or trying to give more information than what we have. And they're just letting people run with rumors and stuff.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brad.
I was just going to say there's so many good things that the MLB has done, especially last year with a lot of rule changes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of things that continue to just make you scratch your head. And this being one of them, you have so many people out there that have been against gambling in sports. And then this just fuels that fire, that conversation of people that will say that, like, you know, gambling doesn't belong in sports. This just gives them another reason to do so.
There was a notification that dropped while we were doing this that there was like an update that apparently they were still like making sure of everything that was going on, but still needing Ipe's translation during the beginning parts of the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Who's this per? What's the source?
It was Bleacher Report per.
Oh, if it's on Bleacher
Find
Report,
it.
that's fine.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll try to figure out who it was.
Where
But
that
yeah, it was
came from.
Bleacher Report. But that's crazy. You got to rely on the guy who you're investigating's translation in the first parts of the investigation. Is a little crazy.
Lots of he said, she said probably happening.
Yeah.
Rock, the statements that were put out, at least just to give the backstory of all this, we'll wrap it all together and then we'll hop right into the Orioles news.
Here's why this is such a bad look, and I'm not speculating anything. Everything is alleged this, alleged that, and that's the kind of terminology I'm going to use for that. But here's what's not alleged: the statements that Ipe Mizuhara put out to ESPN, and I believe it was separate interviews with ESPN. First, he goes on and says about the whole situation, obviously he, meaning Ohtani, wasn't happy about it and said he would help me out, make sure I never do this again. He decided to pay it off for me. So evidently, what I'm reading from this article, there was a wire transfer from Shohei to this Matthew Boyer, who is under federal investigation, that illegal sports book. First of all, gambling is not legal in the state of California. Second of all, they said that they did. Well, Mizuhara said he did not bet on baseball because he knew the ramifications, but he did bet on other sports. And that's what I'm getting from this. But then here's where it gets kind of not fishy, but it's like people are asking questions about this. Then he comes out and say, I want everyone to know Shohei had zero involvement in betting. I want people to know I did not know this was illegal. I learned my lesson. I will never do sports betting again. So basically he said in ESPN that Ohtani had no knowledge of his gambling debts after, and he had not transferred the money to the Bookmakers Associate. So what happened? I think it's the PR team, the legal team kind of did a terrible job with this whole thing. It makes Shohei Ohtani look bad, whether he is involved or he isn't involved. And the hope is that Shohei Ohtani, who is the poster child for baseball and who is the face of this sport and a lot of sports right now, is not involved in any way, shape, or form. And it was Ipe kind of acting on his own. But it doesn't look great right now because of that, because of the retracting the statements, going back and saying something else. And on top of that, it makes Shohei look bad. My question is this: why would a guy, and people could bring up the Michael Jordan thing, but I'm just asking this question: why would a guy who is set to make $750 million, why would he illegally gamble or bet or have anything to do with that, other than trying to help out a friend? We've all tried to help out our friends before. People who have been in need and try to lend a hand. Maybe this was Shohei's way of trying to lend a hand and, pay off his debt. But again, all speculation, what's coming from the article. It's crazy what happened and that his name's even linked to it. And it is tough right now for the sport of baseball because the hope within the fan bases, the hope within just people who love the sport and love Shohei Ohtani was that he wasn't involved in any way, shape, or form illegally. And it's not going to be a black eye on him like it was for Pete Rose going forward.
Well, and so help me understand this a little bit too, because like the way that I'm trying to understand is that, like, if what Rocco's saying is true, is there any harm in that? Like, what's the optics? Is it more along the lines of like, oh well, Ohtani gave him money to place bets for him? Is that what the accusations are starting to turn into, or is it like, well, he shouldn't have just given him money in the first place? The other side of this is that, like, Ohtani's, I guess, PR team or what have you are saying that, like, Ipe was committing theft, which I'm not quite sure how that even happens. I don't know how you like say, hey, I want $4.5 million, and you don't know what happens with it. So, like, again, obviously there's a whole lot that still needs to be uncovered, but there's still so much that just is very confusing to me right now.
Yeah, Brad, and like you said it, like, I want to ask you this, man, like, who has access to the numbers on your bank account? Who can make transfers for you through your bank account? Is it you?
Right.
Is it somebody else? Like you personally, not Shohei Ohtani. It's like, if you are a multi-million-dollar superstar, who actually has access to your funds other than you? That's a question that I want to know, because if your interpreter, your translator, no matter if he's your best friend or not, my friends don't have access to my bank account, nor will they ever. Like, that's, I mean, they're not going to want like a couple $1,000s, but you know, it is what it is.
They're not getting the 4.5 mil out of you.
That is it. Yeah, man. But that's the question that a lot of people are asking. Like, why does this guy, like, if it's theft, if that's what we're talking about, and that is simply the case, how did he gain access to those numbers? How did he get access to take those funds from you and use them on illegal gambling? And at what point did you see, okay, there's $4.5 million gone from my account? Like, I mean, normal people out there are looking at their bank accounts like probably like once a day, once a week, I don't know, a couple times a week, and just saying like, oh, you know, there's money gone. But I don't know, man. It's a crazy situation right now. I have no clue what's going on.
I would assume Shohei has some sort of financial advisor, especially when you sign a $700 million contract. But like you said, Rocco, somebody had to notice this was gone, and now it's to the point of, was Shohei, because I honestly doubt Shohei checks his personal account like that often. I'm sure he has people that let him know what's going on, but I don't see him sitting on his app on his phone and going, let me check to see, you know, if dinner came out of my out of my account or not. Yeah, like make sure they charge the right.
My DoorDash come out.
Yeah,
there's a lot of there's so many things in this point. Yeah, it could just be a buddy paying off a friend, Brimey.
Yeah, and that's what we don't.
Ohtani is claimed to have given the bookie cash to square away his debts. That's apparently Brandon. What human racks up $4.5 million in losses as well? That's like
it. He said it spiraled. That's what.
No shit.
Shit.
So apparently, he said it was like $1 million over the course of a year, and then he was trying to get it back.
Yeah, and here's something to kind of keep note of as well.
Last point here, Rock, and we'll move on.
It's a lot, because I was trying to put this into a 30-second script yesterday, and it was tough, man, because it's a lot to like unravel and talk about. But evidently, Boyer, this guy who's the illegal bookmaker who's under the federal investigation, he told his clients that Ohtani was a client of his, knowing that he wasn't, because he saw the name pop up in like the transfers, evidently. But when it came out, he said that he has never been in contact with Shohei Ohtani once. Something along those lines of like, we've never been in communication. I've never talked to him. I've never received money from him or anything. But he saw the name Shohei Ohtani, I guess, and was telling his clients, hey, like, he's a big hitter. Like he's a client, and business is booming at that point. If Shohei Ohtani is a client, like, you know, that's what he was telling people.
Yeah, we will. This is not the end of this story.